and welcome to the 34th Annual Ontario Black History Society fundraiser and Black History Month launch event. I'm singer and actor Arlene Duncan, and I'm delighted to be your host this afternoon. I'm not only delighted to be your host today, but I'm delighted to be able to get made up and dressed up for any event in these crazy and unpredictable times. Due to circumstances beyond our control, we are once again encouraged to remain separate together. But that certainly hasn't stopped the OBHS from celebrating our community and launching Black History Month with fanfare. You're in for a treat. The theme for this year's celebration is home. Today, from the safety and security of your own homes, we hope you will be charmed by our following program of talented entertainers, applaud our prestigious honorees, all while enjoying a delicious catered menu designed by Chef Selwyn Richards of the Art of Catering. Personally, I miss seeing the smiles on everyone's faces, but we will still be able to connect and interact in real time via the chat feature on YouTube Live. Say hello. Let us know how much you're enjoying your meal. Personally congratulate our honorees and leave us your comments on the OBHS Facebook and Instagram pages. Now to get on with our program. A multiple Juno Award winner and Grammy Award-winning recording artist for Tears Are Not Enough, this next artist has performed for and shared the stage with such luminaries as President Barack Obama, Bob Marley, Maya Angelou, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, Celine Dion of The Temptations, Natalie Cole, Gladys Knight, and Oscar Peterson. A singer-songwriter who has recorded and performed on studio recordings that have sold millions of units worldwide, and a familiar face to the OBHS. Please stand, as Liberty Silver will now lead us all in the Canadian National Anthem.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all thy sons command. Quand bras c'est porte et les paye, il sait porter la croix. Ton histoire into d'épopée, de plus brillants exploits, God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. For thee.
Thank you, Liberty. Under the direction of Professor Karen Burke and Professor Nathan Deshawn Myers, and accompanied by Corey Butler, please remain standing as the York University AMPD and Arizona State University choirs unite to sing their stirring rendition of Kirk Franklin's arrangement of the James Weldon Johnson and A.J. Rosamond Johnson's Black National Anthem. Lift every voice and sing. Currently a graduate student at Wilfrid Laurier University and a story sharer working on the proclaimingourroots.com project, revolving around Afro-Indigenous identity and relationships with Indigenous nations and Black communities. Anne-Marie Beals is a two-spirit Black Ulnui, a mixed-blood African Nova Scotian, and First Nation Mi'kmaq from the territory of Mi'kmaqi. She will now share with us the following land acknowledgement.
Gwe Gwe, I am Anne-Marie, a two-spirit mixed-blood African Nova Scotian and First Nation Mi'kmaq from the territory of Mi'kmaqi. My feet are currently planted on the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Attawandaron peoples, as designated by the Haldeman Tract Proclamation. From negotiations arising from the American Revolution because of land theft that continues today and has sparked resistance such as 1492 land back claim and reclamation of stolen land and continuing violence against Indigenous peoples. I'm very grateful to be welcomed to the territories of the Six Nations of the Grand River and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. I am a PhD student at Wilfrid Laurier University. Yes, I know. And I work on the Proclaiming Our Roots project with some really rad Indigenous, Black, and Afro-Indigenous activists, scholars, and communities. And so for me, being Black and Indigenous, it's a complex identity. On my father's side, we were freedom seekers from the War of 1812, where the British said, run away from that plantation in Virginia. Come fight for us against these upstart Americans who dared to challenge our imperialism, only to become imperialists themselves. And we will give you shelter, provisions, food, and of course, land to farm and thrive. Sounds like milk and honey, right? But as typical of imperialists who seek to conquer and steal and oppress and kill, the British did not give my ancestors what they needed. The promises were fake. The promises were lies. So when my people arrived in Nova Scotia, they did not have food, provisions, and basic necessities needed to survive. Some of my people were lucky and were located in what is now North Preston, which of course required the removal of the first peoples of the land, the Mi'kmaq, whose territory was seized by imperialists like Lieutenant Governor Cornwallis, who, as Elder Daniel Paul shares, enacted in 1749 the Scalping Proclamation, a decree that paid a bounty to anyone who killed a Mi'kmaq child or adult, receiving 10 guineas of imperialist stolen gold from the Guinea region of West Africa in an attempt to rid himself of the Indian problem, my mother's people. Those first winters were so cold. Stories from our oral history share how the Mi'kmaq, and understanding that my father's people were only looking for a better life, a life not in bondage, a free life, helped them survive during those harsh winters. Shelter, food, and care. But the racism that my father's people and my mother's people faced, it still continues today. Manifesting as attempts to re-enslave and genocide as colonialism, for the continual theft of land and extraction of resources, and theft of our children for slave labor and assimilation. As an Afro-Indigenous person, duly marginalized by imperialist machines of white supremacy, colonization, capitalism, heteronormative patriarchy, and neoliberalism, and I know I am missing some arms from this machine here, I got a lot of feels in thinking about performing a land acknowledgement. Because sometimes it is a performance. At first, I was hopeful. I thought land acknowledgements were settlers acknowledging their responsibility and understanding whose unceded land they walk upon, what that means in hearing the truth, and consequently working toward rectifying colonial systemic oppression wrought upon Indigenous peoples and moving toward conciliation. But land acknowledgements have become performative, empty, and inconsequential acts of ticking that box. And thinking about land acknowledgements, I think about how, with colonial laws and policies, settler expansionism on stolen land from east to west asserts property rights for settlers with protection from police and carceral systems sanctioned by the colonial state. I think about how these settler rights to land have proliferated. It means acknowledging, for instance, that the settler nation state known as Canada is still a colonial state, with First Nations peoples across these lands regulated and controlled by the Indian Act of 1876 and all its amendments and iterations. I think about how my ancestors, my people on my father's side, were brought to these lands against their will, either as hostages or indentured servants, and yet in our nice, polite Canadian society, settlers refused to acknowledge that slavery even existed on these lands. We couldn't possibly be as bad as those horrible Americans. So in this land acknowledgement, I'm speaking to Euro-Canadian settlers who benefit from colonialism. I think of a land acknowledgement as an action, not a ticking a box. So my action is asking you settlers to give the land back. It was stolen by your ancestors, and it is your duty to return the land back to the First Peoples. Settlers, I say to you, do not permit a land acknowledgement to take the place of the necessary effort needed in unlearning and relearning about how you come to be on never surrendered Indigenous territories and what that means for truth and reconciliation. Because for any kind of conciliation and nation-to-nation relationships, you need to give the land back. As a person who was removed from their homelands a few times, I stand in solidarity with the First Peoples in the demand of land reclamation. And there are many of us who stand in Indigenous and Black solidarity for the reconnecting of our land to our beings. Because we are lost without the soul of the land interwoven with the very fiber of our being. And I mean that for all of us. If not, a day of reckoning will come. From the Anishinaabe prophecy of the 7 fires, I was gifted a teaching from Elder Blue that we are in a time of the 7th fire. And during this time, there are choices to be made. I share the words of Edward Benton Benai, Ojibwe Anishinaabe of the Fish Clan, La Courte Oriel's tribe, who was a civil rights activist and co-founder of AIM, the American Indian Movement. He shares, "It is this time that the light-skinned race will be given a choice between 2 roads. One road will be green and lush and very inviting. The other road will be black and charred, and walking it will cut their feet. In the prophecy, the people decide to take neither road, but instead to turn back, to remember and reclaim the wisdom of those who come before them. If they choose the right road, then the 7th fire will light the 8th and final fire, an eternal fire of peace, love, and personhood. If the light-skinned race makes the wrong choice of these roads, then the destruction which they brought with them in coming to this country will come back at them and cause much suffering and death to all the earth's people." I say Walalan for the teachings. The light-skinned man entered into treaties like the Dish with One Spoon, which acknowledged mutual care and respect of the lands. But the light-skinned man wants all the dish for himself and his hunger for wealth and power and land. And now we all reap the benefits of his greed. We need you settlers to work. Put in the work of dismantling systems that harm Indigenous and Black peoples. Transform the white supremacy mindset, and all systems of oppression will follow. Please acknowledge, restore, and give back, because we not keep going in the ways we are going. Acknowledge the land and make the changes and do the work in a good way. So I use this land acknowledgement as an opportunity to remember and set into practice the deep connections of what has come to pass and how we come to be with each other and Mother Earth, the land, water, sky, and cosmos, all creatures and things living and non-living that sustain us and humanize us as a small part of a much greater world. Walalan Migaju.
We are delighted that you've chosen to celebrate with us today. Many of you have joined us in the past, and we are excited to have you with us again, virtually. We'd also like to thank our longtime event sponsors that helped to make this all possible. Our lead sponsor of over 10 years, TD Bank, and our bronze sponsor, ETFO, the Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario. I'd like to welcome our lead sponsor, TD Bank, who have sent their greetings.
Black History Month, a time to remember, recognize, and reflect. While we'll celebrate, we also heard the call from communities and within to do more. More than just talk about inequity and injustice, but to add our efforts to the Black excellence all around us. At TD, we support people and opportunities that help inspire, amplify, and elevate Black communities. We are committed to do more than talk the talk.
She is an author, educator, historian, and curriculum consultant, specializing in the development of learning materials that focus on the African diasporic experience, as well as the recipient of the 2014 Gold Medal Moonbeam Children's Award for Multicultural Nonfiction. I'm happy to introduce the current OBHS president, Natasha Henry, with her greetings to you this evening.
Hello, I'm Natasha Henry, president of the Ontario Black History Society. A warm-hearted good afternoon to you all. We are so glad that you've decided to join us today to kick off Black History Month and support our main fundraising event. This year, we are marking our 34th annual gathering, and we're doing this virtually. Thank you for coming along on what will be an enjoyable occasion. I want to extend special greetings to you on behalf of the Ontario Black History Society's Board of Directors and staff. Our theme this year is home. The word home evokes many different ideas and feelings. A sense of place, love, loss, acceptance, dispossession, togetherness, homeland, and identity. Canada has been the first home of many Black people throughout our history. For those who were forcefully brought here during slavery, and those who were able to make some level of decision to migrate to Canada from the 19th century through to today. Canada is the adoptive home for many people of African descent. During the COVID-19 pandemic, our physical homes have been places of both isolation and comfort. In an abstract sense, we foster a sense of home and a sense of belonging through the creation of different cultural, spiritual spaces. We also do this by improving conditions for Black life through a range of political and social actions. Home symbolizes many cultural, social, political, spiritual, and economic meanings for people of the African diaspora. We also think about and make connections to our African homeland. The Ontario Black History Society looks forward to contemplating the notion of home for Black History Month 2022. Our special keynote speaker, Janelle Scarrett, brings her perspective to our theme that will provoke learning, conversation, and action. The OBHS continues our endeavor to realize a permanent home for the Museum of African Canadian History and Culture, and will be forging ahead full force with our campaign launch this year. Home is roots and presence. This year, we return to presenting OBHS awards to community members who are so deserving of recognition for their selfless commitment to community, to excellence, and honoring our extensive Black history. Congratulations to all our 2022 award recipients. I want to take the time to thank all of our program participants, to Arlene Duncan for being our host, our keynote speaker, Janelle Scarrett, the talented artists who bring aspects of our culture through song and dance. Thank you to Chef Selwyn Richards and the Art of Catering team who prepared and delivered a mouth-watering dinner to you. I hope you have started to eat as you tune in. We hope to bring to you a sense of fellowship and community right to your home this afternoon. Thank you to the OBHS team, our volunteers and staff members who are a driving force behind everything we do. The Board of Directors would like to extend our sincere appreciation to our lead sponsor, TD Bank, for their continued generous support for our annual Black History Month kickoff event for yet another year. We also appreciate the generosity of Cadillac Fairview, our gold sponsor this year, and our bronze sponsor, the Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario. We'd like to thank the groups and individuals who have made a donation for our event today and for some of the meals. Thank you so much. Thank you to the many dignitaries for their greetings and well wishes for our event and for Black History Month, both the letters and the video messages. Ladies and gentlemen, please take the time to read our electronic program booklet and to view the video messages that will be shared to our YouTube channel. Look out for more details on our second annual Black History Month speaker series that will include a launch for Lawrence Hill's debut youth novel and a panel on a newly released film productions on Black Canada. On behalf of the OBHS Board of Directors, I want to wish you all the best for 2022, and let's enjoy our time together today.
A veteran of the club scene with a honeyed voice that has earned him the respect of industry peers, this artist is someone who channels the whole history of male R&B vocals when he sings. From his roots singing in the churches of North Carolina to recording for legendary soul label Atlantic Records and with the iconic Canadian R&B group Crack of Dawn, to My Love, his latest EP for Boomtang Records, he always brings the goods. He's known as someone who can light up a room like almost no other performer and can energize huge crowds with his talent and boundless energy. Having had the opportunity of singing with him on several occasions, I've witnessed him work his magic firsthand. Here to warm your soul and curl your toes with his musical stylings in these cold and challenging times is the very talented Michael Dunstan.
Sing it strong.
There's a light behind every shadow. It will lead us from the dark to our way home. If the journey is long, we've got to be strong. Follow the light. There's a behind every shadow. I can't believe again. Oh, what's happening? Oh, just like it was before. Nothing else can change.
Amazing, you're amazing.
I'm insane.
Yup.
I just want to see the light.
Hey.
And let's go to a place that we all go.
Amazing.
And we sit around the fire. Talk to the family. There's a light beyond every shadow.
Love it.
It don't leave us from the dark to our way home.
Hey.
It will lead us from the dark to a way home.
Hey.
Oh, there's a light behind every shadow, shining, shining brighter, brighter. Behind every shadow, shining, shining brighter. There's a light behind every shadow, shining brighter, shining brighter, shining brighter. This song specifically was written for Black History Month. Right now we're living in dark times and times that it seems like we keep repeating the same thing over and over in this vicious circle. But you know, behind every shadow, there's a light. And if you follow that light, it's going to lead you to your way home. Because right now, we're definitely coming out of the dark. And it's been dark a long time. I'm sure that we're tired and we're worn out from hearing the same old stories over and over again. So my suggestion to you is that you follow the light because it'll lead you to your way home. Michael Dunstan, we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Michael. This next segment deals with food. What would a Black History Month kickoff event be without some delicious food? Recognized as an expert in his field and with a niche as a food stylist, Chef Selwyn Richards has worked at numerous high-profile restaurants in and around Toronto, and along with his company, The Art of Catering, is renowned for appearances on numerous TV shows on the Food Network, Life Network, as well as Soul Food on BET and Showtime. Right now, he is going to entice your palates with some suggestions to sharpen your skills and help to enhance your dining experience this evening.
Welcome to this year Black History Society Gala event, and my name is Chef Selwyn Richards. The Heart of Catering has prepared and delivered your meal, and now I'm just going to show you how to plate it if you choose to. So first we're going to start with our appetizer, and we have haki and smoked salmon vol au vent. It's already in a paper shell, and then cucumber ribbons with baby lettuce, julienne mango, grape tomato, and of course the raspberry vinaigrette. So all you need to do is a small spatula or spoon, and you just have to scoop out your haki and smoked salmon vol au vent onto the plate. It's already done. And if we do the same thing, just pick it up, and there you go, right? And all you need is just add your tomatoes around, just like that. And if there's any mango left, just grab it, and there you go on top. And so for the dressing, if you get a teaspoon, and you take and then just drizzle a little over your plate, and there you go. Bon appetit. Enjoy. Right. So this is our first course. That's just your appetizer. Next up, we have our entree, and it's a jerk chicken lollipop with the roulade of salmon with sweet chili glaze. We have the candy yam with mash, baby carrots, okra, and of course the mango jerk gravy. All right, so we just take our lollipop. There we go. your salmon, and of course you pick it up one time. We plate it that way so it's not a lot of fuss, right? With your there, you take your okra on the side, and look at that. You also have your carrots, and again, you just need to dribble a bit of jewel in your chicken and a little on the plate for effect. And there you go. Voila. So, here's your entree. Well, here come dessert. A lot of people say it's the favorite part, but so for dessert today, you're gonna have mango cheesecake. We didn't bake it yet, but we're gonna be doing tiramisu, which is just as wonderful. And scoop that in, and all you need to do is just scatter your berries around. All right. Nice and colorful. And again, for the sauce, you just want to like drizzle a little bit around your plate, and there you go. So, from our hearts to yours, we hope that you enjoy your meal and you had a great event. Until next year, be safe, and thank you for having us.
Every year, Canada Post unveils a new stamp for Black History Month that recognizes an individual or highlights an event or organization that has played a part in Canadian Black history. We are pleased to share this with you again this year.
Eleanor is a pioneer in more ways than one. If you talk to her about her family history, you know that they were free people who came up from the United States and came to Canada to homestead land that was being offered. So she comes from pioneers, people who launch out into the unknown and face it with courage and all their strength.
Chasing dreams and placing bets.
When the Collins family moved from Alberta to British Columbia, the white neighborhood they moved into raised a petition to prevent this Black family from moving in. But she decided she wanted to help the neighbors understand who they were as people. She volunteered at the local school, taught music, and began to break down the many barriers.
You know, she wasn't afraid to put herself out there as a performer and as a band singer, as a radio singer, TV personality, theatrical singer with her work with Theater Under the Stars, and also in church singing because she had that background in gospel music as well, that she was so versatile and embodied so many different genres and styles of music that all came out as 100% Eleanor Collins.
For her to have her own television show, the Eleanor Show, named for her, is a remarkable and phenomenal act. And so that alone, I think, is again another moment of singularity for her. And it defied the stereotypes.
Ever since I first met her in 2009, I cannot believe that every Canadian hasn't heard of Eleanor Collins. That's how well known she should be in our country. She should be a national icon.
We know the names of that first lineup of performers. We know them by their first names, like Ella Fitzgerald, Billie Holiday, Lena Horne. And I think we in this country, Canada, need to know Eleanor Collins because she is in that first lineup.
Eleanor Collins, you never cease to amaze us with your quality and success. You are such an inspiration. You have worked hard for this moment, and we couldn't be more proud of you.
For life, for love. So, here's to life. Willow, weep for me. Willow, weep for me. Bend your branches green along the stream that runs to sea. Listen to my plea. Listen, willow, and weep.
Our keynote speaker was recently appointed as the first Black CEO of a children's aid society in Ontario. She's an international public speaker, moderator, facilitator, trainer, coach, published author, activist, and community leader for over 3 decades, while also a wife and mother of 5. She is a 2018 alumnus of the 100 Accomplished Black Canadian Women and has been recognized with numerous community service awards throughout the years. She is the co-founder of Andinkra Farm, a cooperative and educational family farm, and will also be presented with the Dr. Daniel G. Hill Award here later tonight. The OBHS is honored to present the keynote speaker for 2022, Janelle Scarrett.
I want to say thank you and acknowledge how happy I am to be the recipient of the Daniel G. Hill Award. I am honored and inspired and hope that this award inspires others in community service, and I hope to continue to live up to the spirit of this award. Thank you so much. I remember home. The feeling of home lived in my granny's hugs, her ancient wisdom, her cocoa and bush tea that fixed everything, from a sore throat to a bruised ego. I remember her stories about growing up in the south of Trinidad and Tobago with her father's family on a house on a plantation where her mother, a servant at a neighboring plantation, was forbidden to live. She took trips to town with her uncle to sell goods in the market. Canada was the place we lived, but home came to life in her stories, her touch, and the stories of my parents. I remember home, the smell of sorrel, sweetbread, callaloo, the sting of ginger beer, and the visions of large containers of soaking fruit curing to make black cake for Christmas. Home is waiting to hear the latest calypsos in preparation for the carnival season. It was the place where I learned how to be me, in a world that seemed to be curious, but not welcoming to me. A strange creature who was compelled to justify her place in their world by answering their questions, which were wide-ranging, but summed up the message that this is not your home. Canada does not belong to your people. My earliest memory of this was in grade 8 in 1979. I remember being so excited to bring a piece of my home to the class for Multicultural Day. I dream I was in Africa and I was a warrior. And as I was grooving, I noticed that I was the only one who was impressed by the clever lyrics of Merchant. My classmate Peter exclaimed, "That music is kinky," and the whole class laughed. I remember thinking that they didn't know what they were missing. I remember that in high school, I was excited to take the ancient history course that was offered in grade 11. I studied ancient Mesopotamia and Greece and the pyramids of Egypt. Never once was it mentioned that Egypt was in Africa. A serious, egregious, and deliberate omission. As I began to study African, Canadian, and colonial history, I often remembered the songs that made history and political commentary danceable. One such empowering tune that would play over and over in my head was written by Black Stalin. It was about the resilience and persistence of African people in the face of violence and attempted genocide. The more Africans they gun down, is the more Africans we come. The more warriors that they kill, is the more Africans coming still. Ashanti, more come. Zulu, more come. Watusi, more come, more come, more come. And I was curious to know more about the home of my ancestors. I remember that my parents, aunts, and uncles could only tell me stories about Trinidad and other Caribbean islands. And I learned about my Carib roots and about the Taino and Amerindian people, and how Trinidad got its name from Christopher Columbus viewing the mountain peaks from his ship. My first trip to Trinidad and Tobago as a teen brought with it an unexpected rush of emotion and an immediate feeling that my spirit was united with its source. I was mesmerized by the sight of all those people whose walk and talk felt like home. I was surrounded by the warm feeling of my granny's hugs as the Caribbean breezes caressed my face, like a distant, pleasant memory. This was the beginning of my journey to reclaiming myself in my new home here in Canada. I recently took on the role of CEO of the York Region Children's Aid Society, and I was prepared to share my comments with you focused on cultural notions of home. And I reflected that some of the families we serve don't experience home in this way. Some children find new homes through adoption and foster care experiences. The painful fact of the disproportionate numbers of African and Indigenous children in care historically and to the present day has forever disrupted our notion of home. Joining and leading the team has placed me in a position to work alongside men and women, some of whom are of African descent, working from inside the sector to make the changes our community has called for to restore the safety, nurturing, and connection to home for many of our families. I am thankful that the entire sector has turned its attention to reform. As a community, we have to continue to demand the kind of change that makes our stories, history, culture, and notions of home possible for the children and families in contact with Children's Aid. I remember our resilience. More come, more come. When we reflect on the meaning of home, most people conjure up a familiar, warm, loving feeling of comfort. That is a combination of the place and the people who nurtured, valued, and validated our existence. It's where we learn about our culture, our spirituality, and ways of being. There is a connection to land, too, that I came to appreciate only after the study of our relationship between identity as Indigenous Africans and the people of Turtle Island. Our history is complex and somewhat intertwined. In North America and the Caribbean, we share the terrible distinction of having been enslaved people. I learned that in New France, 2/3 of the enslaved population were indigenous people to Turtle Island, and that white loyalists brought enslaved Africans north in the mid-1700s. So it was only for the last 50 years of slavery that Africans outnumbered the enslaved indigenous people in Canada. The reasons Africans came to be living on indigenous land are complex, and our relationship with indigenous people is an equally complex mix of ally, adversary, and family. Yes, for many Afro-Indigenous people, the land, culture, and people of Turtle Island are home, just as the land, culture, and people of Africa are home. The theft of these lands and resources violently taken from our indigenous family and the progressive destruction and disrespect of her gifts have left our peoples disconnected and has required us to be resilient. It has also ignited a quest for a place to call home, as so much of what connects us is hidden from view. My remembering about the significance of our connection to land provided the explanation for my deep and passionate connection to the islands on my trip as a teen, a feeling that was repeated and accompanied by an uncontrollable eruption of tears when I returned to Ghana in West Africa in 2015. I felt as though a part of my spirit that I hadn't known was severed was repaired. About 12 years ago, our family moved to our current home in Simcoe County. The property we care for was once a tobacco farm and is located on the home of the Anishinaabe people. Similar to the energies that inspire the work of the Ontario Black History Society, our home, which we named Adinkra Farm, after the Adinkra symbols that originated in the Ivory Coast and are prominent in Ghana today, it is dedicated to providing a place for community to reclaim ancestral practices, our stories, our cultural expression, drumming, song, food, spiritual practice, and our ways of caring and connection to the land. I remember the Coalition for Truth About Africa, made up of high school, university, and college students, along with community elders, who protested into the heart of Africa at the Royal Ontario Museum. I remember that most disturbing image of a white imperialist soldier plunging a spear into the heart of an African man. As we make this revolutionary move to create a museum of our own, a home for our stories, our culture, our place on Indigenous land, I remember and honor the members of the Coalition for Truth About Africa and their courageous stand against the ROM institution. Although the ROM apologized 27 years later, as a community, we need to tell the story of our own heroes in our own museum. Our home, our stories. More come, more come. I applaud the initiative of the Ontario Black History Society Museum Committee campaign to create Black History Museum with a national scope, which I'm told has raised $750,000 to date. We have always longed for a home for our truths told with our voice and the strength to claim our relationship to this land and all the people with whom we share her. The quest for a place to call home in Canada connects to the call of protests, spanning from the time of our first contact with the colonizers and enslavers to the present day, and to our resilience and persistence as warriors for the liberation of our people. Each one of us must support this call. It's only $10 million. We can do it. I am constantly reminded of the truths and stories our ancestors, grandparents, and elders used to tell us. I'm grateful to the Ontario Black History Society for their leadership and action towards fulfilling this vision that will provide a place for our stories, our culture, and our people, and will share our ancestral ways of knowing and being with generations to come. A place where they can begin to remember how to be who we truly are. In a place that is our own, like the familiar, warm hug of home. Thank you.
This year, we are continuing with presenting awards to community members who have gone above and beyond in their various areas of expertise and dedication. In many instances, they have also gone unrecognized. The OBHS received many nominations from our members and the general public, making for some extremely hard choices for these final selections. All of the award recipients' bios can be found included in tonight's program. The following are your award winners. The Harriet Tubman Award will be presented for 2 people this year. First, Irene Moore Davis, for your commitment and tireless efforts in educating on Black Canadian history and celebrating the contributions of Black Canadians.
Thank you to the Ontario Black History Society for honoring me with the Harriet Tubman Award for Commitment to a Purpose. Thank you to my nominator, Chantel Browning Morgan, fellow educator, community historian, Essex County Black Historical Research Society board member, champion for Black Canadian history, and friend. It was Chantel who nominated me for this award, much to my surprise. We've been doing this thing at the Essex County Black Historical Research Society for 20 years now. We're celebrating our 20th anniversary. And having been there from the beginning, I've had a wonderful opportunity to watch it grow and watch its impact grow. And it has been really heartwarming, encouraging, and inspiring to see community volunteers coming together on their own time without any compensation to do this incredible work, this urgently needed work. We understand that knowledge of Black history is an important pillar upon which anti-racism efforts must be founded. And we understand that Black history knowledge mobilization is not merely something that's, good to experience, but it can have a transformative effect, especially on young people, both young people of African descent who need to know more of their history and to know what's possible for them, to learn from the struggles and achievements and striving and successes of their forebears, and for those not of African descent who need to learn about the important roles that Black Canadians have played in constructing our communities and this country and this world to be the place that it is now, so that they know how to work with others and to respect others and appreciate their achievements and contributions. I am very, very thankful to all of my friends who are the best cheering section that a girl can have. I want to thank very much my family, especially my husband, Rodney Davis, without whose support and understanding I could not engage in this work. I want to thank my very patient, understanding, and supportive coworkers who cheer me on regularly, even though they constantly tell me that I'm using my vacation days all wrong doing this Black history stuff. I want to thank Nancy Allen and the late Jim Allen, who entrusted me with the project, the task of writing a book about Black history in Windsor from the 17th century forward. And I'm very thrilled, looking forward to sharing that with all of you soon. Many thanks to Heidi Jacobs, my fellow executive producer, and director Anush Ray Singh for working with me on the North Was Our Canaan short documentary, and for coming back again for more punishment to work on another, Across the River to Freedom. We look forward to releasing that to all of you next year. Many thanks to the many groups and networks and communities of support that are all around me all the time, helping me to achieve success, keeping me inspired, helping me to engage in the self-care that's necessary to undertake this work. I specifically want to name my parish family, Black Anglicans of Canada, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, the amazing women of Black Women of Forward Action, my dear friends at Bookfest Windsor and the All Right in Sin City podcast, and certainly the entire community of Black historians, authors, artists, activists who constantly inspire me, share ideas, and surround me with good energy. We believe that Black history is something that everyone should know, not merely focused on a few high points that Black history often entails in the textbooks and classrooms, things like the Underground Railroad, but really encompassing all of our history. So as we move forward through this Black History Month, I hope that we will all continue to ask the questions: who is missing from these stories? Who is not getting the attention that's deserved? Where are the women? Where are the collectives of organizations? Where are the working class people striving together to make a better world? Let's find those stories and tell those stories. Keep lifting as you climb. Congratulations to the Ontario Black History Society and to all my fellow award recipients, and happy Black History Month.
The second awardee of the Harriet Tubman Award for Commitment to a Purpose will be presented to Floydine Charles Friedel for your dedication and commitment towards improving the lives of those in her community through advocacy and implementation of social and health services programs.
Good afternoon. My name is Floydine Charles Friedel, and I bring you greetings on the 34th annual Kickoff Black History Month celebration and brunch hosted by the Ontario Black History Society. When I received the news of this award, I was absolutely thrilled and want to take this opportunity now to thank Sandra Whiting, who nominated me, and also the individuals who provided letters of support. I also want to use this opportunity to thank my mother, my siblings, and my husband for their never-ending support, and wish to continue in this work on behalf of community. So when I think about what this award means to me in the life of Harriet Tubman, where she too was committed to a cause and was focused on that cause, I see myself similarly in that I have been intentional about serving the community and particularly working with the African Canadian communities locally and nationally to ensure that they have the best that they can get despite all the barriers that they face. I am continuing to be committed to the cause of improving the quality of life that they have so that they too have maximum health. So thank you very much for this award. It means so much to me, and I wish you all a very pleasant afternoon.
Our third awardee, the Dr. Anderson Abbott Award for High Achievement, will be presented to Ivan Dons for your dedication, commitment, leadership, and advocacy work to improve the lives of those within our community.
Hello, everyone. I greet you from the traditional land of many First Nation people. Their connection to the land have never been broken, even in face of extreme hardship. I have called this place home since my arrival in 1997. As an immigrant, I want to honor the indigenous people by contributing to the well-being of the land and the people who now call it home. To the Ontario Black History Society, thank you for selecting me as the 2022 recipient of Dr. Anderson Abbott Award for High Achievement. I will cherish this award. To the other recipients, congratulations and being recognized for your work. To my nominator, my family, friends, thank you. You have been a great support. A very special shout out to Chris Campbell, Vice President of Carpenters Union Local 27, and Lyndon King, President of Mayor Bandy Cranberry Advisory Board and Racism. To my business manager, Bruno Mandich, sisters and brothers of the International Union of Painters and Allied Trade, thank you. I am able to do what I do in the community because of your support. My mother told me never to go through life with catching gloves in both hands, but leave one hand free to throw something back. Last year, I was able to do just that. Working with the Backdoor Mission in Oshawa, I was able to provide Christmas dinner for 250 people, but I was not alone. My family and friends gave their time to support our neighbors. I was also privileged to work with 360 Kids, a York Region organization that worked with homeless youth, where I was able to sponsor 2 youths for Christmas. I don't do this for praise, but I do it because it's important and necessary. We live in a prosperous society, and no one should go without, especially during the holidays. I work in the unionized construction industry, and I have seen firsthand how the trade can provide workers with livable income and benefits. This is why I put so much time and effort in helping people get started in the trade. A young man who I helped get in the trade once said to me, "I wish I had met you a long time ago. It would have prevented me from spending 9 years in jail." When he said that, I thought to myself, this is why I do this job. As the first Black representative in Canada for the International Union of Painters and Allied Trade, I can imagine what it was like for Dr. Anderson Abbott, being the first Canadian-born Black person to graduate from medical school through the University of Toronto. Being the first carries with it a great deal of responsibility. Daily, I'm mindful of the example I set for those who come after. And in closing, I just want to remind my union brothers and sisters that it is the duty of the union to assist with the need of the community. After all, the community is the union, and the union is of the community. Thank you for taking your time to attend and support this event. I will treasure this award.
Next, the Mary Matilda Winslow Award for Advocacy in Public Education will be presented to Candice Fung. For your dedication and commitment towards dismantling anti-Black racism, educating on Black Canadian history, and advocating on behalf of students and families in the public education system.
Hello, my name is Candice Fung, and I am so honored and humbled to have been nominated and receive the Mary Matilda Winslow Award for dismantling systemic anti-Black racism, educating students about Black Canadian history, and advocating on behalf of students and families in the public school system. I am indebted to Samantha Meredith at the Chatham-Kent Black Historical Society and Black Mecca Museum, Shannon Prince at the Buxton National Historic Site and Museum, and Stephen Cook at Uncle Tom's Cabin Historical Site for this nomination. Also, thank you to the Lambton-Kent District School Board and to Superintendent Helen Lane for believing in the necessity of this work, and to students and families for their trust. While thinking about how I could adequately express my gratitude for this recognition and honor it bestows, I, by force of habit, lapsed into teaching, as many of us are prone to do, both inside and outside the workplace. Thank you to the Ontario Black History Society for this opportunity not to teach, but to be in community with people who recognize the import, urgency, complexity, and challenges of this work, and who continue to spend their life's energy dedicated to it. Students and families cannot wait any longer for the acknowledgement and dismantling of systemic anti-Black racism, for the inclusion and celebration of Black history, and for advocates in the public school system. As you well know, Black students' lives depend on this disruption, this decolonization, and ultimately the dismantling of anti-Black racism. Black students' quality of life, life chances, and potential fulfillment of the promises of public education to realize their future hopes and dreams depend on it. As Angela Davis says, freedom is a constant struggle. And to quote Rosemary Brown, we must open the doors and we must see to it that they remain open so that others can pass through. I am honored to be part of this struggle and walk alongside all of you, opening doors and behind those who struggled to open doors for us. As history shows us, and as Mary Matilda Winslow knew, the time is now. With immense and deep gratitude, thank you.
Our next award is the UN Decade for People of African Descent for Recognition, Justice, and Development Award, presented to Russell Gross and the Black Cultural Center for Nova Scotia, for your dedication and commitment to protecting, preserving, promoting, and celebrating the rich Black history in Nova Scotia.
Greetings from Nova Scotia. I'm so pleased to join you virtually today as we celebrate the 2022 Ontario Black History Society Black History Month kickoff. I feel honored and privileged to be the recipient of the UN Decade for People of African Descent Award for Recognition, Justice, and Development. First, I would like to acknowledge the Lord Jesus for his guiding and divine presence in my life. I'm also thankful to my family and the leadership of the Black Cultural Center for Nova Scotia. I've long admired the work of the Ontario Black History Society and grateful for this recognition. It's remarkable to see the growth that is taking place across Canada to share, promote, and preserve the important contributions and legacy of Black Canadians. The United Nations Decade for People of African Descent, which started in 2015 and runs through to 2024, shines an important spotlight on people of African descent and three key pillars: recognition, justice, and development. As a people, we strive to be recognized as a distinct but equal group, and most importantly, a founding culture in this country, as our presence can be traced back hundreds of years ago in Nova Scotia. We seek justice and human rights for fair and equitable opportunities, while embracing opportunities for development to make our communities stronger and thriving. Truly, the goal of the Decade for People of African Descent is to strengthen global cooperation and support of our people locally, nationally, and internationally, to increase awareness and the passage towards presence in all aspects of society. During my tenure at the Black Cultural Center for Nova Scotia, I've had the honor and privilege of sharing important stories of the past, creating opportunities for the future, and being a catalyst for change. I often think of the quote by the late African-American trailblazer, Maya Angelou: "Do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better." Now is the time, as we move towards the final 2 years of the Decade of People of African Descent, to make an indelible mark. In closing, I would like to thank the Ontario Black History Society and Natasha Henry and the Board of Directors for this honor and for working to keep Black history so important.
What an amazing group of award winners we have this year. Congratulations to all of them for their extraordinary contributions and achievements. Once again, feel free to share your appreciation in the chat section and connect via social media. Another segment that the OBHS is pleased to be able to share with you again this year as we kick off Black History Month is the annual unveiling of the 2022 coin, celebrating another moment in Black Canadian history. The following is a preview of the current Royal Canadian Mint coin.
My name is Marie Lemay, and I'm the President and CEO of the Royal Canadian Mint. We are honored to join the Ontario Black History Society and fellow Canadians in celebrating Black History Month 2022. Crafting coins that do justice to Canada's history, culture, and values is a great point of pride for the Mint. It's also very important to us that the stories of specific communities are told in the voice of that community. When we chose the famous Underground Railroad as the theme for celebrating Black history in Canada for 2022, we approached several Black Canadian artists who proposed powerful personal visions of the enslaved people of African descent who journeyed north in search of freedom. We were especially touched by Toronto artist Kwame Delphish's moving perspective of that journey, and we are honored and delighted to share his vision of this important chapter in our shared history on a beautiful new silver coin.
A wheel is continuous and a circle is continuous. So I figured if I can somehow change the perspective and create a coin that everywhere you looked on that coin, the perspective was kind of right, and your eyes will essentially do what, was done over and over again. that was the thought behind that. To add my contribution to the celebration of Black history this year is amazing. And the beautiful thing about this is it's gonna last beyond just this month. And Black artists who don't always get the opportunities on certain platforms, it just kind of opens those doors or more doors for them. My experience with the Mint has honestly been great. Getting the opportunity to create has been, I couldn't ask for anything more. I'm just gonna live in this moment for now and enjoy this opportunity, and I'm excited to get one in my hands.
It is my honor to reveal the Royal Canadian Mint's 2022 Celebrating Black History fine silver coin commemorating the Underground Railroad.
And now it's time to raise the temperature up several degrees with an artistic and cultural visit to the motherland. Rama Club is a non-profit organization located in Toronto with a mission to empower and promote the Burundian culture in Canada. Their vision is to create a cultural dialogue among communities through arts and social activities. Ladies and gentlemen, the Rama Dance Club. At this time, we would like to take a moment to pay tribute to individuals who we have lost this year. May their memories be a blessing. We'd like to give a special thank you to all of our office staff, both past and present. Many of our staff has served the OBHS for a number of years, with some joining as volunteers or as summer students through various programs. As many of you already know, Michelle Halsell, who has served as manager, has left to pursue other interests, and we would like to take this moment to say a huge thanks. What does home mean to me? When I think of home, I think of a place where there's love overflowing. In these turbulent times and unprecedented days, it's a true blessing for those of us lucky enough to have a constant like a place called home. To me, home is the base for everything. Love, faith, hope, family, schooling, fellowship, struggles, and conquests. It's the place we can truly be ourselves, whether our houses are big, small, fancy, or modest. They are our shelters and our sanctuaries. The place you can be naked, emotionally and physically. At this point in my life, I'd have to call Toronto my home, as I've lived here longer than I have in Oakville, Ontario, the hometown where I was born and raised. I'm a proud first-generation Jamaican Canadian on my mother's side, and a fifth-generation Canadian on my father's side. My father, Royal Canadian Air Force veteran, electrician, and historian Alfred Duncan's family were freedom seekers from Maryland via the Underground Railroad, and were one of the first Black families in Oakville, whose presence and historical contributions have been documented in the Oakville Museum, and with a recent installation of a plaque and historical designation on Burnett Street in Oakville, close to the ancestral family homestead. My mother, Isilda Bailey, was a nurse and the creator and long-running president of the Canadian Caribbean Association of Halton. Growing up in the predominantly white community of Oakville, home was where my self-esteem was lovingly nurtured. Surrounded by the rhythms of jazz, R&B, high life, calypso, and reggae, pride in my Black and Caribbean culture was encouraged. My personal experience as a fifth-generation Canadian has always been that Black history is Canadian history, that I am somebody, and that I belong. Whether through telling stories of the Black immigrant experience of feisty Nigerian Muslim cafe owner Fatima Dinsa deep in the middle of Saskatchewan for six seasons on Little Mosque on the Prairie, to my current gig for the past 3 seasons as Velma Diggs on Diggstown, based in North Preston, Nova Scotia, Canada's oldest Black community, I've been grateful in my work as an actor to have had opportunities to be able to showcase Black stories as part of the fabric of Canada. That home is where you make it. Home is where the heart is. And home, well, there's no place like home. I'd like to thank you all for your support this evening of this Ontario Black History Society signature fundraising event. As they say, it takes a village. So we know there are a lot of people to thank for putting together an event like this. I'd like to thank all of the performers, videographers, sponsors, board of directors, staff, dignitaries, of course, Chef Selwyn Richards, volunteers, and brunch committee for making this afternoon so special and under these most unusual of circumstances. While I believe that every month should be Black History Month, as Black history is just history, I'm glad to have been a part of launching this Black History Month with aplomb. Don't forget to mark your calendars to participate in the OBHS Speaker Series throughout the month of February. Details for registration are available online and in the kickoff booklet on your website. In the meantime, I hope you had an enjoyable evening, and I wish you all the very best, from my home to yours. And with that, good evening and so long.